Greetings, pet lovers. Bridget here with First Street Pets, and today we're going to talk about finding Minnie. This video will be the first in a new series called Happy Endings in Lost Pet Recovery. I decided to start this for the purpose of giving people hope who are still out there looking for a missing dog or cat or other pet. I wanted to tell some happy endings after some pet owners had long struggles looking for their beloved animal family member, and that it had a good ending. Today's video is about Minnie, a little cat in Australia, where a whole community came together to help bring her home. Minnie is a 9-year-old gray and white tuxedo cat. She's a spayed female, and she lives in Melbourne, Australia with her family, which is a husband and wife and 2 dogs. Now, Minnie is primarily an indoor cat, but she does go out into the garden a little bit. So she doesn't usually wander very far and is primarily in the house. Now, Minnie is a very shy cat, and this is important when you're looking for a missing pet. You need to understand their personality type and what they are likely to do if they get lost or stuck somewhere. So Minnie is extremely shy. She can be handled by her owners, but she doesn't like to be pet. She will hiss at people and hide. And as her owner, Tarsha, said, it's no fun to take her to the vet. So this is the kind of personality that Minnie has. On February 17th, Tarsha's husband opened the door to let the dogs out. Didn't see Minnie go out, but assumed that she did, as she often does, to hang out in the garden with the dogs. But later on in the day, they noticed that she never came back in. At first, they didn't think too much of it, but as the hours went by and she didn't come home that night and the next day, they realized something was wrong, because generally she would only go outside for a short while and then come right back. At this point, they started what became an exhaustive 7-week search to find Minnie. They did all the right things. They conducted an exhaustive physical search, both in the house, because they weren't 100% sure that she got out, and outside of the house, around their own house, in any kind of shed or outbuilding, in the yard, any place she might have been stuck, because a shy cat can get stuck somewhere and not respond when you call, not call out for help. So they wanted to make sure she wasn't still in the house or in the immediate vicinity of the house. But unfortunately, they had no luck. Of course, they checked their local shelters, and they were very concerned because of her personality. In a lot of shelters in Australia, and unfortunately still in the US, cats are still taken in routinely, and if they are thought to be feral and there is no good outcome for them, they can be put down. So they were very concerned that she would be thought of as a feral or wild, unowned cat, and that she might be put down. So that was a big concern for them. The only good thought was that because she's so shy, they thought it was pretty unlikely that someone would be able to pick her up or trap her or get her into a shelter. That seemed pretty unlikely because of her personality, unless someone caught her in a trap, and that was not known to be done in their immediate area. Tarsha and her husband started engaging their neighbors in the search, just going from door to door, knocking, talking to people, asking for their help. And they found that their neighbors were very kind and very helpful, letting them search on their properties, helping them walk around the neighborhood, looking for Minnie. She printed over 1,000 flyers, which she handed out thanks to the help of some other volunteers, neighbors, friends. Some local cat rescue organizations also helped her to distribute these flyers just to get the word out to everybody about Minnie, so that they would know that she's missing in the area and to keep an eye out and to check their own yards and sheds and garages and whatnot, and to call if they saw anything. Tarsha got some assistance from folks in the area who know how to help with lost pet searches, including a volunteer named Lee Mahoney, who was very helpful to her, gave her a lot of good information. She also got some information from G to Z, or Z as we would say in the US, which is an animal welfare organization in Australia. And they do have a good focus and a good program on lost pet recovery. So she was able to get some really good information from them. So they made and distributed these large eye-catching posters. And between the posters and the flyers, this generated over 100 calls and texts with sightings. They investigated every single sighting, but unfortunately none of them were Minnie. People were very helpful, saying they thought they'd seen a cat. They even reported if they thought they saw a cat that was hit by a car, or even a cat that wasn't exactly the right description. And they checked them all out. But as sighting after sighting fell through, they became more and more disappointed and discouraged. After spending over 1,000 Australian dollars on these posters and flyers and signs and whatnot, they started to have some more disappointments. People were taking the signs down and throwing them in the garbage, or throwing them down on the ground or in the bushes because they didn't like looking at them. Some people even called the authorities to complain that the posters were an eyesore. This was obviously very upsetting for Tarsha and her husband, so they put out a word if anybody has any places that they could place these posters, perhaps on private property or someplace where people wouldn't complain, because they were generating sightings and they were very helpful. She also put up a Facebook page called Finding Minnie. Now, Facebook pages can be very helpful in engaging the community at large, in giving updates and allowing people to post and comment with any kind of helpful information they may have. So she went ahead and set that up, started posting about the pictures and the sightings, and getting her friends and neighbors engaged in this ever-growing search for little Minnie. I became involved in this search when Nell with G to Z reached out to me to help her, because I work with Mission Reunite, which is a nonprofit dedicated to missing pet prevention and recovery. So I set up a Facebook Messenger call with Tarsha and Lee, and we had a really good conversation for about an hour. She thanked me for my help. I don't know that I gave her any new information. They were already doing everything right. I think my main role in this was just to encourage and to say, don't give up. You're doing everything right. You've had no verified sightings at all. We talked about Minnie's personality and the steps she was taking that were probably going to be the most effective in her search for Minnie. And just to keep encouraged. What happens is when people give up, they stop looking, they take their signs down, and then they never find their pet. And without knowing what had happened to her, cats don't just disappear. She had to be out there, she had to be with somebody, and eventually somebody would see something. And they did. But we'll get to that. During this search, Tarsha met some wonderful people in her neighborhood who were so kind and helpful, including this woman, Daphne, who helped her look for Minnie, who kept an eye out for her and would call if she thought that she had seen a cat in her area. Well, one day Tarsha was surprised to see Daphne walking up to her home on her walker, and as it turns out, the poster had fallen down or been taken down near Daphne's home. So she had walked on her walker for 1 hour to Tarsha's house to find out, because she thought the poster being gone meant that Minnie had been found. And of course, she was disappointed to find out that she had not yet been found. But Tarsha gave her a ride back home to her house and thanked her very much for her caring. In order to try and verify sightings, they started setting up trail cameras. So her neighbors were very kind and let her put trail cameras. She also had the trail cameras loaned to her, so she didn't have to buy them. They were loaned by volunteers in the neighborhood who help people with missing pets. So they were able to put up a number of trail cameras on people's property where there may have been a sighting or the possibility of a sighting. They didn't see any of Minnie, but they did get some funny footage, like this cheeky fox who decided to get a free snack and was captured on camera. One neighbor named Cristo had apparently a very nice garden with fruits and vegetables, and he was kind enough to give Tarsha some goodies to take home, including this giant zucchini to eat after searching on his property. One neighbor's little girl helped in the search, and she got this very sweet message from the mom. Tarsha, my 3-year-old Isabelle got your flyer and has not stopped searching for your cat every time she goes outside. She carries the flyer with her everywhere and runs outside saying, "Puss, puss, Minnie." And she and I really hope your cat comes home. After 7 long weeks of searching, hoping, praying, Tarsha got the call she'd been waiting for. Her neighbors Steve and Hella were out walking their 2 Labradors when the dogs got excited about something in the bushes and started looking in that direction and getting interested in it. They looked and saw what they described as a skinny gray and white cat running out of the area where she was and darting into some other thicker brush to hide from the dogs. Because of all the signs and posters and flyers, they were aware of her search, and they remembered that someone was looking for a cat. So as soon as they got home, they found the number and called. Of course, she ran straight down there. At first, didn't see or hear anything, but after calling, she finally heard a faint meow. And you can only imagine how that must have felt after all these weeks, after all that time, to see her Minnie pop her little head out of the bushes. She was able to pick her up, took her to the vet for a check. She will be okay. Her kidneys and organs are okay, which is always a concern when a cat has been out and who knows how much they've been eating. Her weight is down to 2.2 kilos from 6 kilos, so she's significantly lost weight. But she is back home now. As you can see in this video, she is as hungry as can be and very comfortable. Tarsha reports that she's even letting her snuggle a little bit, which is not something that she usually does.
Look who's home, everyone. She's really thin. The most wonderful people called me who were walking their dogs and saw Minnie in the park. She's very thin. It's been nearly 7 weeks on Monday. We'll be taking her to the vet today for a checkup. It's been a long 7 weeks.
Here is a quote from Tarsha, who is right now, it's the middle of the night in Australia, so she and Minnie are getting some much needed rest. And I will read you this quote from her. "Over the 7 long weeks, I've walked what felt like 1,000 miles. My family and I have delivered 1,500 flyers, set up 4 trail cameras, put up over 60 posters and banners, erected a massive billboard thanks to a real estate company who loaned them their giant billboards alongside the road, door knocked hundreds of houses, crawled under homes, and searched through spider-ridden sheds and places I'd never dream of entering before losing Minnie. Some days I felt flat and lost hope, but I've been propped up by so many messages from people with happy stories of cats that have been found. There's no question I couldn't have done this without everyone's support. It felt like everyone in Camberwell knew about our lost gray and white cat, and everyone had their eyes peeled. We topped 100 phone calls and texts from people with possible sightings. I've texted and phoned a few people. There are just so many people to thank. I can't possibly name everyone here. I'll be in touch with you directly. Persistence, determination, and the best community effort paid off. In the end, Minnie was only 500 meters from home. I'm off to snuggle her in bed now. Stay safe, everyone. And thank you to the moon and back. Thank you, Tarsha, your community who helped her bring home Minnie.